Hey Chaotic Crew, Brian here. I've got another fun deck check for you. This time we're going back to Aetherdrift for a incredibly fun Gruul commander. And I thought it'd be funny to name the deck. I'm giving it all she's got, Captain! But Redshift Rocketeer Chief, a red and a green for a 2/3 Goblin Pilot, and it has Vigilance, right? But you can also tap to add X mana of any one color, where X is Redshift's power. Spend this mana to only activate abilities. The big thing here is it's got an exhaust ability for 10 of anything and a red and a green. Put any number of permanents from your hand onto the battlefield. So, really strong card. Early commander gets out. As you buff it, right, you can start tapping it for lots of mana for abilities. So very strong there. This is a deck that's going to use a lot of abilities, and a deck that's probably going to power up your commander. Easiest way to keep the power there is with 1/1 counters. There are probably a couple other ways to buff it, but that's pretty much what this deck is aiming to do, and then cheat out a bunch of big things, which is very Gruul, if I do say so. So, going to a creature package, we are running 31 creatures, which is a good amount. I'm going to just go through these real quick. Agatha's great because it can reduce the exhaustibility, by her power, right? Which is pretty nice there. And then Agatha also has her own ability, which you can use Redshift to pay for, which is great. Agonisaur Rex, cycling is an ability, so you can use the Redshift mana for that, but also, you can cast this for an 8/8 trample for 5, so very strong there. Beast Rider Vanguard, you can also... a card that's a common, so you probably haven't heard of it unless you've been playing Aetherdrift. You look at the top 3 cards of your library, you may very permanent, put them into your hand, and the rest will go in the bottom. But 5 mana is pretty steep for that cost, but if you have Redshift out, sometimes it's really not that big of a deal, so pretty strong there. Beast Whisperer, just going to help us with some card draw as we do cast these creatures. Bristly Bill, really great because land entering the battlefield is going to put plus and plus counters on our commander, and then we can pay the 5 mana to sort of double the number of 1/1 counters, so very strong there. Drillworks Mole, really good. I'm going to be able to put a counter on Drillworks Mole and a 1/1 counter on a commander, so just turn 1 playing this is really nice. If you can give it haste later, it's not bad, but otherwise it can maybe be a dead draw, but if you have this in your opening hand, it's really strong. Duskwatch Recruiter, a fantastic way to use the Redshift mana. Pretty much, getting a creature card into your hand, similar to Beast Rider Vanguard, just costing less mana. Elvish Refueler is really nice. You can activate exhaust abilities, even if you've already used the exhaust ability. That's the thing about exhaust is you can only activate it once per the creature being on the battlefield, right? But what's great, it also has its own exhaust ability. So if you don't have one to pour into, you can kind of, like if you don't have enough mana for Redshifts, you can just use this one again. Itali is a great creature to have, and it also has an activated ability, which you can use for the Redshift mana for. So very strong there. Evolution Sage, going to help buff, proliferate those 1/1 counters we've got going. Evolution Witness, also going to be, buffing those counters. The Adapt is an activated ability. Forgotten Ancient is a great way to move those 1/1 counters onto your commander and make it really easy to get that exhaust ability off. Goblin Narcomancer, just a great mana dork, essentially, making almost all the spells in here cost 1 less, which is great. And then Goro is amazing, can give all your creatures haste, and can also make 5/5s, so very strong. Guardian Augmenter is going to automatically buff our commander, but it's also going to give it hexproof, so pretty good there. With Flash, Halana and Elena is going to be buffing our commander, and when we buff this, it's going to buff other things even more, so just very strong there. Incubation Druid, a great mana dork, and when it gets a counter on it, taps for 3 mana, which is amazing. Inferno of the Star Mounts, if you have enough mana to pump this bad boy, you can just burn something for 20 and then hit something else for 26, or for another 20, so very strong there. Kamiya Whispered Hopes is... fantastic, doubling the counters and getting us lots of mana. Kogla and Yadaro, discarding it is an ability, so being able to destroy an artifact or enchantment with their commander's mana is really strong, and also it can be creature removal when it enters the battlefield. The regular Kogla is also solid. You can return a human if you have it. We've got a few of those in here. Agatha's a human, Duskwatch Recruiter's a human. So we've got a couple of them if we want to do that to give Kogla indestructible, but Main thing here is when it enters, it can fight a creature, and then when it attacks, you can destroy an artifact or enchantment. Ordinary Tumblewag is great because it's going to be putting a lot of 1/1 counters on our creatures. Rochi Leafcaller is going to be adding mana to our mana pool. So basically, we can use Redshift's ability to maybe add 3 or 4 mana for an ability, and then you can continuously put that mana into a Rochi Leafcaller to make that actual mana to be able to cast spells, which is really strong. Professional Facebreaker, just a way to get treasures, ramp up a little bit and help maybe draw through our deck. Rampaging War Mammoth, cycling is an ability, like I said before, and being able to get a lot of artifacts with Redshift is really good there. Rishkar is solid, can put a bull counter on our commander, but also becomes a mana dork, right? Shaman of Forgotten Ways is great, and the Formidable is a fantastic ability. If your opponents don't have a ton of creatures on the board, Formidable can just, pretty much take them out of the game. You can win the game on the spot there with just Redshift and Shaman of the Forgotten Ways, so very strong. Savella Ice Shaper is going to be ramping us out with its ability, and then the second ability is essentially getting stuff for free, so very strong. Treestop Snare Spinner, another common here, but it's putting +1/+1 counters on creatures as sorceries, and it's just a reach Death Toucher, so it's a strong blocker, right? We're tapping our commander a lot, so we want blockers, and no one's going to want to attack into this thing, and no one's really going to want to waste removal on it either. If they do, it's kind of a good trade for you, I feel like. Tyvar the Pummeler is great. You can make it an indestructible, which is fantastic, and then you can pay mana into it to buff all your creatures. And if you're buffing your commander a lot, using Tyvar is going to give all your creatures +7/+7 plus whatever, right? It's going to be really strong. And then Wrecking Ogre is fantastic. It's going to give some creature +3/+3 double strike, and that Blood Rush is an ability, so you can use that Redshift mana for it. Going with sorceries, we got a couple MDFCs here. Bodyguard Recovery to get stuff back from our grave. Bridgeworks Battle to buff a creature and have it fight something, so really strong there. Chandra's Ignition and Blast Act for board wipes, so careful if your opponents have like protection from red or anti-damage or indestructible things. It can be difficult to deal with those. Just because Will and the Rishkar's expertise are really strong card advantage engines in here too. So that's good. Pretty much if your opponent has indestructible stuff, the plan is just to overwhelm them, right? It's not really something we could do a whole lot about. Instance, we have Beast Within, Chaos Warp, gets rid of indestructible, I guess. Get to the Viper is a strong way to untap our commander and become a very strong blocker. Heroic Intervention protects our board. Invigorate is a free way to buff our commander, so give someone 3 life to get 4 more mana, which is really strong, and 4 more attack. Stony Strength puts a +1/+1 counter on a creature and untaps it, so another cheeky way to untap our commander. Temur Battle Rage gives our commander or any creature double strike and trample. And then Timely Malfunction helps protect our commander, but also can do some other things, make creatures not block, etc. We run 10 artifacts here. We're running the Ozolith, obviously, so getting those +1/+1 counters stored onto this thing. The Great Hinge is great with that, right? All of our creatures are going to enter with the +1/+1 counter. Ozolith, the Shattered Spire, is fantastic because it's going to double our counters, and it's an ability to put counters on creatures, so it also has cycling if you need to do that, but I wouldn't do it that way specifically. Yeah, I guess the Soul Conjuring is a way to exile cards from graveyards, but also put +1/+1 counters on our creatures and give creatures, the same abilities. We could actually put an infinite in the deck, right? There are, cards that untap creatures, right? But like a Devoted Druid puts a -1/-1 counter to untap it. With Redshift, you can just tap it for so much mana and then exhaust it if you want to. Kind of like a pseudo infinite. So you could do that if you wanted to, but I chose not to put that in here because I feel like that's a bit too strong. Patriarch Seal, really good. It can untap your commander, which is fantastic. And Staff of Completion can proliferate or add mana, so very strong there. Sting is great because you get to untap your commander each combat. Not that you're going to be using the abilities every turn, but if you can, might as well, right? So very strong there. And then Swiftfoot Boots, obviously, to protect the commander. The Aether Spark is fantastic because you get a 1/1 counter on your commander, you start buffering it up, or maybe you have no card that's has trample that's gonna get some damage in. Put a bunch of counters in the Aether Spark, draw 2 cards, or add 10 mana in 1 color, can really be strong. And then Thunderous Velocipede from Aetherdrift. It's going to make it so that each vehicle and creature you control enters with an additional 1/1 counter on it, and then if its mana value is 4 or greater, it enters with 3 additional 1/1 counters. So really strong showing here, just putting a bunch of counters on all your stuff. And then enchantments, we have classic Gruul enchantments like Fight Rigging to add counters, Invigorating Hot Spring and Rhythm of the Wild for these, cards that can give haste. Invigorating Hot Spring is also great for counters. Hardened Scales adds extra counters. Innkeeper's Talent is great for counters. Tribute to the World Tree will either draw you cards or put counters on your creatures, so very strong there. Wild Growth Utopia Sprawl for some cheap ramp, and then Well Rested, pretty much makes it so that when you tap your commander, you put 2 1/1 counters on it, then gain 2 life and draw a card. So really good there, and tapping it is an activated ability, so you will tap it, get the 1/1 counters, and then you'll add the mana equal to its power, so very strong. And then nothing too crazy with the land package. You could, of course, add, Ghost Quarter, Scavenger Ground, that kind of stuff, just, to have it. I probably would do that, take out maybe a forest and a mountain for that, but otherwise, yeah, very strong deck here. Cheap commander, and does something a little different than most Gruul decks do. Playtesting the deck here, and we can keep this hand. It's not amazing. It's not amazing, but we'll keep it. We'll draw, we'll play the forest, go to turn 2, mountain, play the commander. We can't do a whole lot with this hand super early on. But we will pay 3 for the Staff of Completion. We'll swing in at somebody for 2. Next turn, so we're in turn 4 here. We can play the Halana and Elena and start buffing our commander. I think that is probably the play. Alright, this will get 2++ and counters at the beginning of combat, so it's a 4/5 now. Go ahead and swing in. We have a mana open, or we have Staff of Completion open, right, for whatever we want to do, whether that's Stony Strength or just not do anything. Maybe we want to proliferate, or we can, draw a card potentially. That might be a lot, asking for a lot, but you never know. So next turn we get the Duskwatch Recruiter. Okay, we'll play this mountain. And if we wanted to, we could do the Strongrin's Ignition after combat, right? So this is going to make this a 6/7. We could Chandra's Ignition and deal 6 damage to everything, which isn't bad, right? Or we could technically do 7 if we do the Stony Strength too. So we could do that. We could also play the Duskwatch Recruiter and then attack with our commander and then tap it for mana to do stuff. We could play the Tribute to the World Tree, then the Duskwatch Recruiter, and then get another creature in our hand. So I probably like that play the most. So if we went 1, 2, 3 for Tribute to the World Tree, and do 1, 2, and cast Duskwatch Recruiter, and it will enter in with 2 1/1 counters, so it's a 4/4. And moving to combat, this will become a 6/7, so swing it for 6. Main phase 2. Tap it. Look at the top 3 cards of our library. Reveal a creature card. It is Kogla and Yadaro. First go on the bottom. And we can do it a second time. So 1, 2, 3. We get Calming of Whispered Hopes. So very strong there. Awesome. So we just essentially drew 2 cards with our commander there. So really good. And then you can just keep going, right? Let's try another game. Okay. Yeah, this isn't bad. We can totally do this. So draw a card. It's Calming of Whispered Hopes, which is nice. Play Path of Events, rest 3 tapped. And go to turn 2. Play the Redshift, and we scry 1. I'm going to say scry to the bottom. It's a good card, but we don't have the mana well, we have the Minotaur Commander, I guess, but I don't know, I'd rather draw some other stuff here. So next turn, we draw a card. It's a Rhythm of the Wild, which I do like. I'm gonna play Rhythm of the Wild. And the Riot with the Calming of Whispered Hopes is gonna be really strong here. So, and then we'll just swing in for 2. Next turn, we get another land. Let's see. We could pay 3 for Calming Whispered Hopes and then pay 2 for Incubation Druid, but that doesn't really, we don't get counters that way, and I think we really want to do that. So let's play 2 for Incubation Druid, have it enter in with a counter. So now, so now it's a 1/3, but next turn I can tap for 3 mana, and then let's go ahead and tap Well Rested. And put that on Redshift. And what that's going to do is that's going to start buffing Redshift and start drawing us cards. So we'll attack, and then in response, we'll use the mana to add colors. It'll get 2 moment counters, we'll gain 2 life, and we'll draw a card. Right, so that's very strong there. Next turn, don't have a land, which isn't ideal, but not the worst. Professional Facebreaker isn't bad. Great Hinge isn't bad, because we can attack in and buff this some more, and then make this essentially free. I do like that. So let's go ahead and tap this for 3, and we'll do Calm Me Whispered Hopes. Have it enter in with 2 1/1 counters. So it's a 3/3, and then we will swing Redshift for 4, but then for damage we'll tap it, and we will get so we'll put the 2 counters on it, draw a card, and gain 2 life, and then we will get 6 mana to our mana pool. We'll make it 6 red. And then, sorry, it'll be 7 red, because this will give it 2 plus 1 counters, but Calm Me Whispered Hopes will give it a 3rd one. And then, if this lives, right, then we can just tap 2 for the Great Hinge. And then we can use Path of Ancestry and the Great Hinge for Goro. We did lose that mana, so we did not get that mana. So we don't have to play Goro. We can play something else if we wanted to. But when it enters, it'll enter with 2 1/1 counters. And we'll enter with 4 1/1 counters, because I can't attack this turn anyways. And then we'll draw from, 4 1/1 counters, yeah. And we'll draw with the Great Hinge, which is good. This gives us Gift of the Viper to sort of be able to, if we want to untap this and then retap it to draw another card, and give us a really solid blocker. Unfortunately, we can only create a dragon when we're attacking, so not ideal there, but would have been great if we had it on the battlefield already. But already an amazing showing for this deck. Turn 5 can kind of just get out of hand, right? So a fun deck. It's pretty quick paced, and if you like stuff like that, I think this is a deck for you. Pretty cheap to build and proxy out if you want to have some of those strong cards in there. But otherwise, yeah, I appreciate you showing up to check out the deck, and if you like it, let me know what you put in. Let me know what you take out. Don't forget to like and subscribe on the channel, and I'm excited to start making these other deck techs here for Final Fantasy and the Spider-Man stuff. So just looking forward to that, and I hope you stick around. Take care. Bye.